a historical bottleneck of a very centralized data engineering team, where essentially business teams need to wait for data to be available. What people should be doing with their kind of data architecture. They do basically everything from extract, transform.
Hey, today I am with Taylor from Rivery and we have an amazing session for you. Can you introduce yourself and what you do at Rivery?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, Yusuf. I'm happy to be here. My name is Taylor McGrath, and I lead solutions engineering at Rivery. I started in the data analytics consulting space about 10 years ago, managing data projects and advising on data solutions to a bunch of different types of companies and organizations. And I moved to Rivery about 5 years ago to lead pre-sales. And my team's role is really to bridge the gap between, our customers' business problems and then the technical solutions they can find with Rivery and our partners.
That's very interesting. And can you tell me more about Rivery?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rivery is a modern integration platform. So we're really in the ELT space. So extract, load, transform. And it's all about building and maintaining data pipelines to essentially move data and then transform data, once it's there, and orchestrating these processes all together as they go. It's no code, so it helps data engineers and data analysts alike to extract and load data from various sources, such as third-party services like Salesforce, your marketing platforms like Facebook ads, Google ads, as well as databases to do database replications from operational databases into your cloud warehouse or lakehouse like Databricks. So it offers a simple no-code experience. It's fast to set up and requires very little maintenance because we're a SaaS platform, so there's nothing to install on premise. Let's say we also do have self-service, an easy way to create custom connections. So that can be a custom source to any REST API, as well as even a custom destination. So for like reverse ETL, let's say if I want to take data from my lakehouse and put that back into an operational system.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I remember I used Rivery to get data from Salesforce, and then I did some transformations. Then I push it back to Genie to start asking like natural language, start asking questions like, what are my weekly sales on this project? What are the top best teams? And it's very easy to use Rivery. That's for sure. And that's I think that's also, if you can give us some example where Databricks customers use Rivery and maybe some of the common use cases. I already mentioned that like ingestion from Salesforce, but do you have any other examples?
Yeah. Yeah, so we really see two main use cases I think go really well, where Rivery and Databricks fit really well together. The first one is a little bit of what I explained before, which is what I'll call, simple and flexible data ingestion. So that means being able to move data from essentially any source into the Databricks Lakehouse. And by flexible, I mean even post ingestion, being able to, for example, kick off a Databricks workflow or kick off a DBT job to run on top of Databricks, or just do any sort of SQL that's happening within Databricks. So whatever that next step is of automation of your like data engineering lifecycle, being able to connect the dots more easily and flexibly with all the configuration options while still being easy to use. The second core use case that we're seeing is for large organizations. There is this shift or this move to be more decentralized in their data operations, meaning there may have been a historical bottleneck of a very centralized data engineering team, where essentially business teams need to wait for data to be available. With Rivery, we have multi-tenancy that we can actually align really well to Databricks Unity catalog. So that means data platform administrators can create these like curated silos where business teams actually can go deeper upstream into the data engineering lifecycle and create like end-to-end data products without having to wait or depend on central IT organization because it's easy to use and because it can be governed, right, to the permissions, and there's visibility over all the tenants.
These are very, very great use cases. But I'm really I want to know especially, or I'm interested in the ones where Rivery and Databricks are used together to decentralize the development of data pipelines and, as you mentioned, like maintain this proper governance. Can you give us more details about that, or maybe if you have a customer story?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a customer story I can give. I can't say the name, but it's a very large toy company, I'll say. And the core use case with them is very aligned with the second example I gave you, where essentially they're looking to decentralize, kind of along the paradigm of like a data mesh principles of their, all their data operations internally. Their core warehouse, lakehouse, everything they run on is Databricks internally. So essentially what they were looking for is, can we have an end-to-end platform where we can leverage the power of Databricks, but also connect to any data source easily so that these teams, they call them data product teams, can go end to end, right? Without needing their central IT organization. So what we did there was we aligned our environments in Rivery to the different teams, where each team essentially has, like a dev QA production. And that aligns to the access that they have in Databricks as well. So the provisioning process is all linked, where when they provision a new team, they provision them the necessary Databricks access, and they connect that to the place in Rivery where they're provisioned, so that those users have full control over the piece of Databricks that they should, right? So they can go end to end, but it's still governed at a global level internally as well. First, this is a more general joint architecture, both Rivery and Databricks. So if we see on the left where we see ingestion, these are kind of buckets of all the different things that we can connect to easily. So we have fully managed connectors, the ability to create custom ones, something called kits, which we'll get into in the demonstration, which is essentially these pre-built models of both the ingestion and the pushdown transformations in Databricks. Change data capture or database replication, as well as event streaming. And then the idea is to move the data into Databricks, usually building some sort of data modeling. What's common is what's called, maybe a medallion architecture, where you're building out the different layers of your lakehouse, of like raw data to more structured and curated data for specific business needs. So that's when we start talking about data products and something that'll actually, provide value to the business. And you may do this in a number of ways, whether that's DBT, native Databricks, orchestration, and transformations. Rivery is flexible, with all of those. And then ultimately, there's some sort of activation or value insights being had, whether that's analytics in the form of, our traditional like dashboards and reporting, using that data for, data science, ML, even Gen AI now. Databricks has like a great suite of features there. And we talked a little bit about sending data back to business apps as well. So being able to push it even downstream, outside of the lakehouse and back into, an operational system. So it's the general architecture of what, in the use case I was talking about, they want individual teams to be able to do end to end, kind of any piece of this puzzle, or even to be able to draw the line in the middle. Maybe you want your core engineering team to still service this side of things, but then once you get the data into Databricks, that's when you want people to, other teams to be able to connect, do their own data modeling, and then serve their lines of business. And so when we start to think about data operating models, I've talked about, decentralized. That's really the core kind of shift that we see happening, especially at large organizations where the bottlenecks are much more painful, because you have to, maybe wait and go through a few different teams. There is a laundry list of service requests to get access to data even. We're seeing a shift to the right of where these data platform teams are established to govern and manage the data platform and to enable downstream teams to be able to self-serve all the data on the platform. So it becomes the ideal state is these like democratized operating models where we have the centralized data platform, which would be for storage and transforming data that sits in Databricks would be Databricks. But then also making sure that all the other tooling that we're integrating with Databricks has the same security, the same governance principles, et cetera, that we can serve these domain teams. So all of these things are standard while they're doing their own data product building separately. So that's the idea, and that's exactly what the use case I was referring to, or the customer story is here, where they really started with their like marketing domains, so all the marketing platforms being able to serve, get the data from the source, transform it in Databricks, and then ultimately serve it back to the business.
Yeah, it's amazing how easy it is. I think this is the most important part, how easy it is to use Rivery. Since you're already sharing like your screen, can you show us how Rivery works? Like, can you open the platform and walk us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. Where I'll start is actually in the Databricks Partner Connect. So Rivery is in Databricks Partner Connect. It's super easy to just spin up an account. So you basically just page through this menu. It'll create you a Rivery free trial account, and it'll actually automatically create a Databricks connection in our account as well. So you can just get started immediately setting up your sources, which I'll show you here. So if we jump over to Rivery here, we see the Rivery console. So we see the Rivery console, and this is initial landing page of Rivery. So kind of all the different types of data pipelines you can work with. As far as the pipelines, we refer to them as rivers, to be very on brand here. But let's say I wanted to connect some different applications to my Databricks and set up automation to ingest from those sources. It would just be a matter of clicking to open this type of pipeline we call a source to target. So getting data from sources, landing them in our target, which is Databricks. And we have over 200 different connectors out of the box, and the ability to create your own custom connectors. So just to start with something quick, I'll show you an API one. So if we choose Facebook ads, so let's say a very common marketing platform, I would choose the source that I want to connect to and then establish the connection to that source. And I can always create it from scratch if I don't have any connections yet. And then really there's two routes I can take. One is I choose predefined reports, and I essentially can page through this menu. So I select, I have Databricks as my target. I can set up the connection if I already have one, or I can always go in, edit it, or create a new one. So set up all the different pieces here. And then I would choose, okay, what catalog and Unity catalog do I want to load data into, my schema, et cetera, and how I want to actually load data once it's starting to merge into other tables, let's say. So do I want to set up a merge process, just append data, or always overwrite it, let's say, in the downstream tables? And then choose the actual reports that I want to pull from Facebook. So that's as simple as just saying, okay, I want to pull everything or pull specific reports. I can go into each one, see what the actual columns will be. I can edit and choose, customize any of this in terms of casting, renaming, et cetera, you name it. And then ultimately just put that on a schedule to automate. So, hourly, daily, even custom cron expressions for like advanced scheduling. And really that's end to end of just, if I want to get data very quickly into like the standard reports and common use cases of these sources, I can use this predefined option. Now, when we're thinking about being highly configurable and flexible, we also offer custom reports. So that means I actually can curate and define the exact fields, the exact dimensions, granularity that I want from these sources. So for Facebook and many other APIs, they tend to be aggregated. So based on the columns I'm selecting, that's going to be the level of granularity of the output, let's say. So I can say, all right, I just want to see my accounts by clicks. So I can select these two fields, choose the data level, choose any other additional breakdowns. This is all, we try to make our sources as one-to-one with what's available in the API documentation by the source APIs as we can. So there's kind of this two route option of where I can get very custom. I can essentially pull anything that these APIs offer in a highly configurable way. Or if I'm just time to value, speed, I just want to replicate all the common reports and tables, then I can do that as well. So this is when we're talking about flexible ingestion, something that's simple yet highly configurable. This is what we mean.
Yeah. So technically, if I understand well, like maybe a data analyst can just open the platform, select any type of resource, like I don't know, Google Analytics, Facebook, or whatever. Like choose the catalog, the schema. There is gonna app search, merge, or overwrite. Send the data to the data lake, and then from Databricks go, I don't know, do transformation, then send it to Power BI or publish a report quickly without the
Yeah.
need of like any data engineer, typically.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
so this
amazing.
this what I just showed is like the first step you mentioned, right? So just getting data there, and it's very similar, like for applications like a Salesforce or even a database. It's the same exact flow of what I just showed, except I'd be choosing entities or tables. Let's say if it's a database instead of API reports. But then once I do that, I can actually choose what happens next downstream. So our next type of pipeline we call a logic, which is essentially a series of logical steps. So I can say, okay, my very first step, I want to run an existing river. So maybe the Facebook one we just created. And let's say I also have, a Salesforce process I've built. So I'll do, Salesforce load. And these I can actually even kick off together. So I can say, I'll create a container, I'll drag this one in, run these in parallel. That means these two jobs are going to be triggered at the same time, kick off all my ingestion together. And then I can choose, I have a few options for how I want to kick off transformations to happen downstream. So we do have a built-in like Databricks functionality for just running Databricks SQL. So this will happen, in the actual command is sent to Databricks. It's using Databricks resources. So here I can just do, really any SQL query or DDL type script, run that in Databricks, and then choose what happens to my results. So maybe I want to do some sort of transformation, load that data into a different table in Databricks. I can do that with this step. I also can kick off we call an action, which is our kind of generic REST API component to do a number of things. So this could kick off a DBT job. This could kick off a Databricks workflow that's already defined. And we have a lot of these use cases because we see them a lot with our customer base. We have them already pre-configured and we build them into what's called a kit that really any user can go and download and start using quickly. So here, let's say I want to actually kick off a Databricks workflow. I have a job here called Databricks job trigger, where I may just need to send in or configure some variables like my job ID, making sure, I'm configuring and triggering exactly what I want to run. But this essentially will connect the dots between my ingestion platform and all my ingestion processes and that next step of the data engineering lifecycle. And so if we go over to kits here, I'll show you what these look like. Essentially, they are a library of these predefined packages. So if we just search all the ones we have with Databricks here, you'll see I have Databricks job trigger. So that's exactly what I showed before. If I preview this, I can click use kit, and essentially it would download or import those pre-configured pipeline components into my Rivery account. So I can just get started and use them. So I don't have to, go and create them from scratch, etc. And so here as well, you can see we have a number of other kits. So we have some of them that are more like models, I'll say, where we package both the ingestion and the SQL or the transformations that happen after the fact to create more consumable tables for business users. So it's essentially tying together both the initial loads of the raw data and creating essentially a full data model here. And so it'll give you some info on exactly what's happening, and we're creating kind of a final performance table. This example is just with Snapchat data to Databricks. But essentially, a user can import that, get all that pre-configured, and then also tweak it and customize it, to their needs.
So just one question. Kits, is it the equivalent of workflow for the orchestration for Rivery? Or it just like some pre-bundled scenarios?
Yeah, so I'd say I would consider them like starter templates, right? So for various different use cases. So some will combine ingestion and transformation. Some, like the Databricks job trigger, these are actually just more of an automation component. So there are various different Rivery components packaged together, easily configurable for users to just get started with. So they really range kind of all the functionality.
Okay, that's cool. And I saw that you can trigger workflow from the process. So can you, for example, build upon a successful completion of that job, trigger another process? For example, I don't know, getting data from Salesforce will trigger, I don't know, pushing back to another system and then getting back data from another tool, for example.
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly what I was showing, where these jobs actually are sequential. So the next one is not going to run until the previous one completes. So let's say, if I do have my Salesforce load that's loading to Databricks, and then I kick off, a Databricks trigger where maybe this is doing transformations inside Databricks. Then after this completes, only after this completes, I can have other things happen downstream too. So you can manage kind of a full end-to-end orchestration here. Or it can simply just be, hey, I want to do my ingestion here, and then I'm going to kick it off to Databricks, and then the rest of that, let's say, is managed by Databricks. So it really depends on the use case and the company and kind of where they want their bird's eye view to sit as far as like seeing all the pieces of a workflow complete.
Okay. And I'm curious to know, like, who are the main users of Rivery? Because for Databricks, we have a lot of several personas. We have data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, but who are like the main users of Rivery?
I'd say it's everything from your more technical data engineer, a little bit more downstream to like your analytics engineer and even your business analysts are the core users of Rivery, and that's because for even the more technical data engineers, it makes a lot easier and quicker their job, right? So they don't have to spend as much time managing pipelines, can clear up their time to do more challenging tasks, maybe more bespoke tasks that are, to optimize for their business. Whereas for business analysts, et cetera, it really just extends what they can do in terms of going more upstream and creating their own data products, not needing to wait on other teams. So I think what's nice about that fit with Databricks is it's really extending the amount of users that can work with the Databricks platform, right? Traditionally, Databricks was initially built very much data engineers, machine learning, et cetera. But now with things like you guys providing Databricks SQL and Unity Catalog and the dashboarding suite, et cetera, there's kind of all this opportunity for it to be further downstream in the hands of the business. And I think it's a powerful pairing of Rivery plus Databricks for that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And just for information, I think Rivery was the first company from Partner Connect I've ever used when I joined the company like few years ago. And I've seen like several companies within the same, let's say, market, ETLs. What's the main differentiator for Rivery versus their competitors?
Yeah, good question. I think you're right. There's many ETL ELT vendors. It's a super saturated market, I would say. So I'll break it up into the two, I guess, categories or types that we see. So first we have what I'd call more like legacy ETL vendors, where they're very robust products. They do basically everything from extract, transform, etc. But a lot of them were built before really things were built on the cloud and for the cloud initially. So the main difference between a platform like Rivery and these is that everything comes with a modern cloud native solution, the ease of use, the time to value, the near zero, administration. So it comes down to a total cost of ownership, since there's really no hardware or like version upgrades to manage, etc. A lot of that is just kind of taken away, shipped away from the user's responsibilities and managed by us. The second category I'll say is we have a set of more like modern vendors, often referred to as ELT tools, similar to Rivery. They offer a number of data integrations as well out of the box. But however, most of those vendors are quite limited. Even they're like either they're limited in just they only do ingestion, so that's kind of where it stops. There's no flexibility really to enable things to happen downstream, to connect into other tooling via either like our examples of pushing downstream to DBT, sending data to other systems, triggering a Databricks workflow, and really anything you can do with a REST API, you can automate with Rivery. In addition to its transformation and orchestration capabilities, so Rivery can help you simplify your stack and run it alone with something like Databricks, or add specific tools in addition, but not necessarily needing a series of like 4 or 5 additional tools to your lakehouse, right? For one for ingestion, one for transformation, one for orchestration, one for reverse ETL. It can really kind of simplify that stack. And that also, there's a big cost component of that as well. With every new tool, there's a new pricing model. There's new costs to keep an eye on. Some are consumption based, some are not. So I think it's the simplification of the data stack in times like today as well.
Do you have any tool to track the costs within Rivery, like for every single part, how to track the current cost or not?
Yeah, I think I'm still sharing my screen. I am. So we do have what we call, so there's a couple ways to do this in Rivery. So one is right in the user interface. We call the activities, where essentially down to every execution, you can see the amount of data moved. You can see, here, let's go into one. You can see the amount of data moved. You can see the credits, what we call RPUs, or Rivery pricing unit, that were incurred. So all of these are particular runs. So I can see, okay, if I go in to one of these, I can see the status. So this completed. I can see there's 1 credit for that run, how much data was moved, the parameters, and all of this is available via API as well. So that means I can grab all this data. I can automate that process as well. We actually have a kit specifically for tracking Rivery activities that you can bring these data sets down into like your Databricks tables, and then even create a dashboard on the top, let's say, to manage alerts. And we have some built-in alerts too. So based on the package that you have, we'll even do pop-ups in the UI for when you're reaching certain thresholds or certain limits.
That's amazing. And I can see there is something called environments. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, so this is exactly what I was talking about with the example before, where there's I'll say 2 really main value propositions here around our environments and multi-tenancy. So we're talking about a use case of democratizing data operations. So I'll say first, what you're seeing here is I'm in an environment right now called development and in an account called Taylor Demo. So this account actually has 7 odd environments, and these can be configured however I like. So that means I could do my classic dev QA production and even repeat that for different teams. So here you see like business unit 1 dev, business unit 1 prod, same with business unit 2. So depending on the lay of the land of my company and my data organization, I can curate these tenants. And then I actually can, once something is in an environment, that means permissioning and role-based access control can happen there. And that also means that I can set up deployment packages from one area to another. So I can migrate content, pipelines, etc., from one place to another. So what that looks like is I see my deployments here. I can just create a deployment package where I say I want to go from, say deploy. I'll go from, maybe BU1 dev to BU1 prod. select objects there. So I select exactly what I'd want to deploy and then continue to that deployment. And essentially what that will do is migrate that content, deploy it from one place, one environment to another. And what's nice is I can manage these. Here you see all a bunch of variables down the side, and across the top we have all my environment names. So that means I can parameterize any piece of these pipelines. So that when I'm deploying from one environment to another, I can have it evaluate to different values. So that means if I say, okay, maybe I have a catalog in my development environment that I always want to use my development catalog, but when I deploy to production, I want it to the entire configuration of my pipeline I want to be identical, except I want to parameterize certain pieces of it. So that's where these variables can come in, and I can get a bird's eye view or a matrix of all of my environment variable definitions. And lastly is when it comes to governance of actual access. So I can have access at the user level, teams of user level, and I can decide essentially for each user or team what environments they have access to and what level of access. So here you see a user named Ron, and he has no access to a particular set of environments. That means when he logs in, he won't even see these. And then different levels or different roles across other environments as well. So this is when we're talking about a data platform team who's administering this platform. They can align these environments to their setup in Databricks or Unity catalog and make sure that the roles make sense for what a data steward should be doing, what a developer should be doing. So that aligns with their data strategy. Everyone's drawing the line somewhere between what's centralized upstream and maybe what's more decentralized downstream that they want business teams to own. So this allows flexibility for them to curate exactly where those lines are.
I think simplicity is the key word here when it comes to using Rivery.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, simple yet flexible. That's what we try to. That's our philosophy. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Taylor, for this walk through the platform. I think you've covered almost everything, like how you can get started with Databricks and Rivery, how to create a river, how to have a look at the kits, the different environments, and we have a glimpse look at all the connectors, more than 200 connectors you do have, plus the custom one you can build. I think now like the audience have a clear understanding of what can Rivery does and how Databricks and Rivery can be combined together. Thank you so much for your time. And before we close, do you have any advice for the users?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always come up against questions of differentiation, or even just questions of what people should be doing with their kind of data architecture. They might already, a lot of times they already have something in place, like a Databricks, where they say, hey, this is our strategic, storage and what we're using to serve the business. But then as far as all the other pieces of architecture, I'd say, yeah, like you said, just, keep it simple, unless it's something that's going to give a very customized opportunity to your business that you want to develop manually and customly. I'd say, keep it simple where you can. Try to consolidate and allow your users to access data and play with data and ultimately serve the business with insights.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me during this session, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Yusuf. You too.